All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next installment of Mr. Carley's video lecture series. Today we're going to talk about transportation, particularly within the railroads. Now, transportation is going to be a very important concept for this course this history course. United States, especially the turn of the 20th century, transportation becomes really key. And so in this lesson, we're talking about the new transportation source of the late 1800s, early 20th century that really expanded, and that's called the railroad. It's the railroads. Now, you guys talked about railroad development a little bit in 6th grade. Railroad development kind of expanded, and then it basically stopped during the Civil War, because after the Civil War, during the Civil War, people of course are fighting each other, and the expansion of a transcontinental railroad, or connecting east and west with rail system, was put on hold. The railroads that were used for military transportation. And one of the main reasons why the North won the war is because of their ability to transport troops very quickly via the railroad, as well as communication that comes along with railroads, such as telegraphs, that allowed them to have quick communication between the president and the generals on the field. So now that the war is over, the idea is to expand economic development throughout the United States, which includes the Northeast, Southeast, and the Midwest, connecting the bounties of the Midwest to the people of those on the prairies. For example, if you're living out in the plains, as we talked about in class, you have no lumber. You only can live in a sod house, but people are going to want to live in a sod house for only such amount of time. The sod house was a temporary adaptation to the plains. But once you had lumber enter the region, then people could build homes, or build a barn, or build a silo, or build a town, or a trading post of some sort to transport their goods. So it allowed, we're going to talk about what's called a market, a national market. This is what these railroads did. They created a market in itself with the ability to transport items. So here's a picture of the railroads during say about the 1890s. It's a railroad map, and as you can tell, you can see that as you get closer to the east, or northeast, Midwest and Northeast regions, you notice that there are a lot of rail lines. They actually get so thick that they become one dark clump. And if you look at the Midwest region, we're going to talk about these areas. I'm going to look at this map later on, and we're going to talk about this. You notice that you can tell where the population is based on how many railroads you have. So the idea is to connect all these areas, these states, together via trade. And so let's say there's, for example, peanuts being growing in Suffolk in Virginia, okay, like where I live in Suffolk, lots of peanuts. They could transport those, that crop can be transported up to my old state where I grew up, in Michigan, via railroads. But in fact, Michiganders could not grow peanuts there. That the climate's not made for that development. So anyways, let's go talk about the transportation resources. This mantra is resources, products, and markets. Railroads connected resources to factories where they made those natural resources, turned them into products, and then would sell them off in a market. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. So using your notes, go ahead and we'll fill this in. First of all, by the way, those notes are, of course, if you do not have those, you can get a copy on the MO site if you wish. Here you have moving natural resources, such as copper and lead, to eastern factories. There are a lot of copper mines up in the upper Midwest, and there's lead that you could find up in the upper Midwest, or upper Midwest, and they could send that using railroads to the Northeast, or places like Pittsburgh or Philadelphia, where they can use that to build whatever product they need. Lumber is exceptionally important. As I told you, the Great Plains, they have no trees, so they need to have lumber from up in the upper Midwest. So they had to deliver that to people in Kansas. There's a video here, but I kind of want to show it to you in class because I want to point out something that's kind of important to me. It actually takes place in my hometown, and there's a really fun story that goes with it. So we're going to skip the video. on this video. But of course, as you have other online videos, I would put on the videos. You actually can watch the videos from this video, which is interesting, a video within the video. But for today, we're going to pass this. All right. The next is very important is steel. Steel built America. Without the steel industry, you could not have railroads. You needed to have the steel for the railroad lines. Without the steel industry, you could not build bridges for those railroad lines to cross main waterways. Without the steel, you could not you couldn't build buildings to accommodate the growing populations of some of these eastern and midwestern cities that started to grow in population. So steel is important. Now there are some places. There's one place in particular that we will call what's called a specialized industry city, and this is Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh makes steel, and if you think about your football team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, there's a reason they pick Steelers, because Steelers are the people that made steel. So they would need iron ore and coal to be put into what's called the Bessemer process, and I'll talk about that in class a little bit more, where they would use pressure and heat to combine carbon and iron to create what's a steel at a large scale. Remember, early steel production used to be very expensive, and now with this new process, steel production is cheap. Next is transporting those products, such as steel or even textiles up in the Northeast, or even crops in the Southwest and the Southeast and the Midwest, and transferring that to the national markets. Manufacturing areas, they would build manufacturing plants in areas that are already populated. In fact, what you're seeing in this picture here is of Chicago. We'll talk about why Chicago boomed so quickly in class, in their class discussion after this when we meet next time. But areas of population are necessary. You need to have a population source in order to build a factory. And there's a great way to memorize these, and you can memorize the manufacturing areas based on sports teams, because they often associate sports teams with whatever their manufacturing, whatever their manufacturing time period. So, for example, the textile industry is New England. And if you think about New England, don't think about the New England Patriots, but think about the Boston Red Sox. Sox are a textile. Boston Red Sox. There you go. Next is the automobile industry in Detroit. If you think about the basketball team, the Detroit Pistons, piston is a part of a car engine. Steel industry in Pittsburgh, you have the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll talk about it. So, and of course, we already talked about what these sports teams were. So we'll discuss these a little bit more in detail when we return in class. Now, the focus question. On your Edmodo site, please write your response. How do you think the national markets provided by the railroads impacted the lives of the common people of the United States? By common people, I don't care about the rich folks, the people that are making money in big businesses. I'm talking about the average person. How do you think a railroad would work? How would you think that would change their lives? Of somebody that lives in nowhere, Nebraska, how would the railroad impact their life? Okay, so go ahead and write that response, and of course I'll check up on those as by next class, and we're going to be discussing a little bit more about the different regions and the different type of industries and when we return. Okay, enjoy your evening.